Hi everyone, Tasha Danielle here, coming to you from the lovely Granada, Spain. I have been in Granada for about a week. I came to Granada from Sevilla, Spain. And I ended up in Sevilla and in Granada based off a recommendation from someone I met in a Paris walking tour. I wanted to learn more about the Moors, the history of the Moors, and she told me you have to check out the south of Spain, so that's how I ended up here. Oddly enough, a lot of tour guides and the printed information here in Granada and Sevilla, they don't mention the Moors specifically, they mention Muslims, but that's a whole nother topic for another day. I want to share what I did in the 7 days that I got here. So after getting off my lovely plane ride, I checked into a horrible Airbnb. This is the first time that I had to actually cancel an Airbnb since I've been traveling the world. And I'm showing the pictures now and some videos of how shady the place was. Y'all, I was uncomfortable. No natural sunlight. Okay, I'm gonna stop ranting. I'm doing a whole other video on that just because there are some things that I could have done to kind of seeing that this was not a great property, even though it was a super host with a 4.9 rating. Yeah, so after that debacle, I found another Airbnb within like 20 minutes and I moved to that Airbnb and it was lovely. Lots of natural sunlight, which I need. Like, the sunlight just gives me life. So I'm showing you what my Airbnb looks like briefly right now, and let's get into the activities now that you know where I've stayed and all that. That hiccup. The first activity I did was a walking tour in the Albaicin Quarter, which is a very historic neighborhood of Granada. It dates back to the 1500s. I specifically chose this walking tour because you get to visit caves where people actually still live to this day. The caves started to be built around the 1500s because people were fleeing Granada and other parts of Spain because of the Christian conquest. The Reconquista is what I've been hearing it, and if I butchered it, don't judge me. I'm doing better with trying to say these words. But basically, Queen Isabel, well, this is before Queen Isabel, but it was a time, hundreds of years, where throughout Europe, it was the sole purpose to make everyone convert to Christianity. And so during the last couple hundred years of that conquest, people started moving to areas and building caves. I thought this was such a cool experience because I love caves in general. And the family that's living there is from Morocco, and they charge €1 to come in and visit the cave. And that cave, they're renting it. I don't know how much they're renting it for, but that cave was purchased, I think the tour guide said, in the 90s for €150,000, and today it would go for $250,000 today. But that was a cool walking tour. Got to visit the cave, did a sunset in the Albaicin neighborhood, saw some great places to go back and visit for lunch and dinner. And we ended the tour at a Moroccan restaurant. I had like the best lemonade ever, and it's a Moroccan food. So what I've noticed in Granada specifically, heavy Arabic influence and Moroccan influence still exists in this area today. After the walking tour, a couple days later, I did another walking tour because I love history. And one way to learn about history of places that you're visiting, it's best to walk around the city. And this tour guide was amazing. I know I say everyone's amazing. I use that word a lot, but this was probably the second best walking tour I've been on, behind the Black and Lisbon walking tour. Because first, it was just me. I booked the experience on Airbnb, and I thought it would have got canceled just because I was the only participant, but it was just me and a tour guide, and that let me ask every question I had that came to my mind. And this is the first time in Spain that I actually heard someone recognize at the time, the Iberian Peninsula, which is now Northern Africa's influence in southern Spain. And she mentioned the Berbers, and she did briefly touch on the Moors. And so I got to learn about that, and I'm gonna expound on that in another video. but I just had a great time talking with her and learning, and the views. One thing about Granada is beautiful. Like, you can take pictures pretty much everywhere you go throughout this area. Is so pretty. After guided tours, I took the time to explore Granada on my own. I went back to areas that had great views of the mountains, the Alhambra Palace, and I took pictures. And I also spent time going to restaurants. One thing about the south of Spain that I noticed is different from Barcelona is they observe siesta, meaning that restaurants close between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. Sometimes they don't open back up to 8 because it's so hot here at the time that I'm here. And they have daily menus. I didn't see daily menus in Sevilla, now that I think about it, but daily menus is a menu that is between 10 euros and 15 euros that serves you a appetizer, a mini entree, like a tapas I should say, like a roasted chicken or something like that, and then a dessert and a glass of wine and bread as well. So it's a good deal. And then if you think about it, if everything closes from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., it's so hot, you have a glass of wine, you really do go home and take a nap. I did experience that a couple days where I'm like, okay, I can get into the siesta thing. It's frustrating from the standpoint of, if you start your day late, you have to rush to get to places to make sure you eat. But on the other hand, if you wake up at a decent time and have your lunch, it's hot, you have a little glass of wine, you go to sleep, wake up. They love their wine in Spain. So it was an adjustment, because some days, I stay up late at times talking to people back in the States, my friends and family. So starting my day late did not help me on certain days, because let's say I wake up at 11 and I'm like, okay, let me just get settled, get dressed. Like, if you leave your house at 1 p.m., you got to hurry up and get something to eat. Because sometimes they will stop serving food at 1:30 because they're like, we about to close at 2. Some places close at 2:30. Some places didn't even open until 10 a.m. and then they're closed at 1:30. So it was like, some days it was confusing, but I got the hang of it. Now that I'm leaving, right? But food overall, pretty good. I do like the siestas and daily menu options that are here. The other activity that I did was visit the Royal Chapel. The Royal Chapel and Royal Cathedral are historic because Queen Isabella, I've heard it pronounced different ways, and King Ferdinand, looks like Fernando, where their bodies are located. I've never seen anything like this. I am actually going to show you videos of, well, outside, because you can't take pictures inside of the Royal Chapel. But why Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand are so historic, or why they're why they are such important people to history, is because Queen Isabel is the person that funded a lot of Christopher Columbus's sailing, and we all know he was supposed to go sail to India, or in their minds find India, and he ended up accidentally coming to the Americas and conquering and doing all types of horrible things to the natives that were already living there. And I know some history books want to say he discovered, but he did not. He conquered and destroyed and started, I'm not even gonna go there. But it's funny because whenever you go to places, they never mention slavery here, and it's like, really? Christopher Columbus. But back to my main point, Queen Isabel approved for him to go on his expedition and provided the funding for that. And that happened after Granada pretty much surrendered to Queen Isabel after 10 years of war, because Queen Isabel wanted to take over all of the territories of Spain, and Granada was the last piece, the missing piece to her conquering all the areas. And Granada surrendered in 1492, and once Granada surrendered, money was freed up, and that some of that money went to Christopher Columbus to go on his expedition. So their bodies are literally underground in a crypt. You can walk by and see their wooden caskets. So a little history lesson for you, but I love history. And so that's why I'm doing, one of the things I'm exploring on my world tour. Another thing that I did, I went hiking in the Sierra Nevada. Yes, Granada has a Sierra Nevada. It's not just in the States. And this honestly was the best hike that I've been on. I've been hiking in Costa Rica and in Hawaii and California, and obviously in Michigan too. But this was a really good tour guide. And it wasn't just that he was a good tour guide. He took pictures, like some really good pictures of us. And I love taking pictures whatever I do. And the ground was dry, which people don't have control over that if you're doing a guided tour. But it wasn't too hot. We got up early enough to go hiking. We started the hiking tour at 8:30 in the morning. By the time we got to Sierra Nevada, it was probably like 9:15 with dealing with people registering and getting on that straight. But Sierra Nevada and Granada, there's a lot of the hike that's shaded because you're walking and sometimes on all fours through the low-hanging rocks, and you can hear water streams as you're hiking. Like, I'm by a fountain now, and this is what I heard, minus this little cricket thing, the majority of my hike. So peaceful. And then we came back to Granada. The hike overall was about 3 hours, but best experience I've had hiking. The other activity that I did was the Alhambra Palace, where I'm at now. And I had a tour for 8:30. You have to get to the palace itself at a specific time. So my tour time was 8:30. I didn't have an actual tour, but your time to get there is 8:30 because you only have so much time in the palace itself. And the reason why this palace is on everyone's to-do list when they come to Granada is because it's a World Historic Site. It was added to the World Heritage List in 1984. The palace itself was built in the mid-13th century by the Moors for the Moorish king at the time, for that dynasty. And I'm putting information on the screen because I'm learning about it all like within the last week. So I don't want to say the wrong thing and get the dates and people's names wrong. But that is why a lot of people come here, and it's breathtakingly beautiful. And the fact that this place is still standing after all this time is truly like I'm showing you videos and pictures right now. It does not do it justice. I'm so glad I came. Unfortunately, the ticket that I had, I could only get the ticket on my last day here. So 8:30 a.m. was my arrival time that I had to start my tour. I have to get ready to go and catch my train. It's 11:30 now, but I need to leave here in about 20 minutes. And it's so big, you need a full day to do it. And I didn't want to miss coming. You have to actually have tickets to go inside the palace, but you can walk around the grounds of the Alhambra, which I didn't know. So if I would have known that, I would have came here yesterday just to explore the surrounding areas, because you don't have to pay for where I'm at right now. You can walk around here freely and just, it's so quiet and peaceful. I'm the one making a little noise recording. So yeah, you can see all the pictures. It was only 14 euros to get interest into the actual palace, and you can go to the general life, which is on the other side of the main palace. You can see where the king would go to vacation. He had a palace but needed to take a break. He would go vacation in his summer palace home. And then I'm in the garden right now, and so you can walk outside around the garden. But overall, great experience in Granada, Spain. I definitely want to come back here. It reminds me a lot of Arizona because of the mountains, and certain parts of California because of the homes and architecture. But it's a really lovely city, and everyone here that I've encountered have been really nice and helpful. I definitely need to brush up on my Spanish stuff. Babbel and Duolingo, I got to get back on there and get my Spanish together. But that is my 7 days in Granada. Until next time, bye.